I didn't stream to my audience. That's okay though.
Oh, you sure? Okay.
Yeah, because if you stop it, then we got to start all over again.
Oh.
So
All
let's
right.
not do that. Totally
No,
fine.
let's
Totally
not.
fine.
Let's not. All
Okay.
right, cool. We're live on both.
We're
So
live. Oh, there we go. It went black
yeah,
for a second. I can see
yeah,
now. We're live. Sorry about that. I
yeah.
psyched you out.
Doc, Thursday again. Thursday at 12:30. Our
Yeah.
traditional date. How you doing? Good week?
Very good. Yeah. Thanks for having me on. I'm the wingman today, and it's your show.
That's right. You're like glad to be the guest and not the host.
I don't mind. I don't mind talking.
So I want to talk about supplements today. I think, something that questions I get a lot and I see a lot just on Instagram, social networks, also just commercials as I'm watching, TV at night. It's like everyone's pushing the collagen protein, the electrolyte supplements, the all the things. And I know for me, I'm not a big supplement pusher. I certainly recognize if a client comes in and has had their annual well visit or just been to the PCP or had a checkup and they're like, hey, my vitamin D is low, or they decide to follow more of a vegetarian vegan lifestyle and their iron is low because they're
Yeah.
not eating a lot of red meat, then hey, yeah, maybe an iron supplement makes sense. Maybe a calcium supplement makes sense if you're having bone density concerns. But I
Right.
do think the industry in and of itself has become more and more like supplement this instead of just getting it from whole food, nutrient dense spectrum of colors, all the things that can give you all those micronutrients without the supplementation. So, I mean, what are your thoughts on some of these big companies that are, doing all of the different supplements and such?
Yeah. I think we probably have a similar feeling in this, but I'll tell you this: how I've gotten to where I did in chiropractic school. I was 24. I was bodybuilding, and I was a natural bodybuilder. So I didn't do any testosterone and growth hormones and that kind of stuff. And my I tried every supplement from GNC you can imagine. I was in my 20s for a few years. And what I found was my gut was terrible. My skin was terrible. I was lethargic. I was working out a lot, but I felt like shit. And I didn't know I felt like shit. I just thought that's what you feel like. So I made a distinction. It was about halfway through chiropractic school. I had a thought. What happens if I get rid of every supplement? I'm talking about even protein powder and creatine and the whole thing. And what would happen if I just ate food?
Mm.
And so I literally switched to food. I got rid of everything. And my body changed so fast. My skin cleared up, my gut cleared up, my digestion problems went away, my muscles grew faster. So when people talked about this subject, I have real life experience with having tried all the supplements, and that's a big general statement. But I mean, from the bodybuilding industry and the weight loss industry, I have found that nothing beats real food when it comes to like nutrients. So that's the first place I'll start with that.
Yeah, and I guess the question becomes you can read the research behind, for example, creatine in men and women post 40 that are trying to do some kind of strength training in it. Our body isn't naturally producing as much creatine because creatine is a naturally occurring hormone in the body. And we can get it from food, but the amount that you're going to get from food cannot be equivalent to the amount you're going to get in a very condensed source of 5 grams of creatine and because you have to eat so much volume of other foods to get that amount. But, you know, I mean, that's interesting that you were seeing muscle growth potentially even at a young age when you were already producing plenty of natural creatine without supplementation. So why do you feel like the research is showing us that there is this impact of creatine supplementation on muscle growth post 40 when potentially you could get it just as much from real food?
Yeah, like I'm I love research, but knowing that I have seen research that has been incredibly falsified also.
Yeah,
And
it's paid for by.
yeah, so I'm not gonna say weird. I love the research, and I do read research, but when this is for me, nothing trumps research is secondary to my experience. And research is secondary to my experience with my patients.
Yeah.
So that's the order it goes for me. So the why, when I looked at this, and I know creatine was one of the things I was like, hey, it's highly researched.
Yeah.
But what I noticed was when it comes from your real food, even if it's a lower amount, your body processes it much easier. I also found things like, for example, broccoli. If you eat a lot of protein, right, and those protein powders, your body, the proteins and amino acids that are actually in meats, I don't think they're anywhere near the same as in a protein powder. And when you combine a meat and a vegetable, this is almost probably now 15, 20 years ago that I was researching this, but because I was trying to figure out, like, why do I feel so much better? Why are my muscles growing faster? Broccoli helps. Oh, I shouldn't say just broccoli. The nutrient dense, caloric rich vegetables help you to use the proteins inside your meat. So what I find a lot of people are doing is just putting protein in. Your body wasn't designed just to have that. Your body actually utilizes all the minerals and elements together. And so when you have a balanced meal, I mean, it's easy to say the word balanced meal, but a balanced meal actually, it helps you extract out the nutrients much easier from your foods. And so I know what you're saying about the amounts, but I think that the quality seems to be so much better in real food that it's almost like, I don't know, if we came up with random numbers, 10 times the amount of creatine versus only one unit, right? Would be better in food in my book, because the higher quality just in those 1 or 2 units versus the 10 half-ass units, for example. That's
No,
not
I agree. I mean, I personally take no supplements. I don't drink protein powders. I rarely eat a protein bar except on Sunday because I gotta go to church and it fits in my purse. But and I have always maintained very healthy body composition. I'm not over the top with things. I'm kind of a realist when it comes to that. But it does bother me how much people are getting their nutrition from powders and bars and products and pills and things like that, when I do truly agree with you that it's the bioavailability, it's the way our body absorbs and breaks down and processes a piece of steak or a chicken breast or eggs or dairy versus a protein powder that's inevitably got to have more of a processed component to it because it sits on a shelf for however long and it's in a powder form. Like, it just can't be the same. And there's obviously a spectrum of protein powders, and I'm not going to claim to know how they manufacture all these. There could be one that's completely clean that I don't know about, but I just don't think there's a equivalent to just animal protein or dairy or soy or whatever choice you choose that's real food.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, this is so I've seen what happens with my body. And so I've been on both ends of the extremes where tons of protein powders, creatines, all kinds of supplements, and I saw what it did to my gut. And so I was extreme. So maybe, there's an example of maybe where you're not so extreme, but then I went to the other end of it where it's like, no more. And so I've done this now with my current company, with the Fast 40. We for 40 days, we have people pull out sugars and oils, but I do the best I can to get people to stop all the supplements, including vitamins, unless they have some kind of deficiency or something. But even if that's the case, I don't have one person. and I've worked with probably thousands, who's like lethargic and they feel terrible. Matter of fact, most people tell me I feel so much better. And so that's what I'm seeing with tons of people is you just feel really good when you get the minerals and elements from your food. And there's a ton of studies a long time ago about like vitamins, for example, that you absorb 30% or less. And I know there's new technology, the lipo technology of it, but I think that's what's really happening. I think that we are able to reap the like you said, the bioavailability. We're able to reap the actual nutrients much better from the food than we can the supplements. And so that's hands down. I've seen that all the time.
Yeah, this happened to me a few years ago with the branch chain amino acid thing. It was like for a while everybody's like, oh, it helps with recovery, and the branch chain aminos are absorbed right into your muscles, or you're gonna have better absorption, blah 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 blah. Then 5 years later, these are worthless. Like they're not doing the research shifts. So to your point on research, like it changes all the time. It's hard to just rely strictly on that, though. I do like to look at some solid, legitimate sources to say, like, where are you getting this information? Because people come to me all the time like, well, I read this. Well, where did you read it? Like, where are you getting this information, and who's claiming, so that can help people sift through the noise. Because I think it is hard for people who aren't knowledgeable and who aren't like you and I that do this for a living and that have worked with thousands of people over the course of our life and have seen the ins and outs of it. Like they're just coming in raw. And I think it is important to be able to show them like, hey, here's the science of this. Like it doesn't, there's no validity to that. You're wasting your money. You're wasting your time. Like put more energy into meal prep, put more energy into grocery shopping, put more money into better quality foods versus dropping hundreds of thousands of dollars potentially on some of these things. Because they're not cheap. I mean, even a protein bar at the gas station's $4. Like they're expensive too. And it's like, I think people, like we've talked several times, like quality for convenience. If it's convenient, if it's easy, if it's simple, it's usually less quality in my experience.
Yeah. My kind of general rule now for myself and for patients is that when it comes to supplements, so I won't ever skip any of my meals. So the 3 meals at least what I'll have a day. And so that's number one. And so sometimes people ask me, hey, what about a protein shake in the morning? And what they're really saying is, how do I not take the time to make real food for myself is what they're saying without really saying it. Because that's why the reason you want a protein shake, it's easy. I can do it and go out the door. But there's a long-term effect of that. So that's one side of the spectrum. The other side of the spectrum, in 2019, I became so deathly ill. I've talked a little bit about it, but I was in bed for 6 months. I didn't walk for 6 months. And so I started becoming, I was toxic. I was poisoned. There was Lyme, black mold. I mean, it was seeping into my brain.
Was this from like your house? Was this like an environmental thing?
I was going to China. It's a long story, but I was going to China twice a year. I got a parasite in China. And when you're bit by a tick, limes can stay dormant in your system. So when the parasite was eating my food and I was being now malnourished, it released limes. So at that point, it just went downhill. So it's quite terrible. But because of it, and I'd never taken supplements because of it, I had to be a part of, I was going to functional medicine doctors and all kinds of stuff, people that I have access to. And I was on easily 14 supplements a day, but I was in bed sick. Like I literally was losing my mind, organs shutting down. I mean, it was terrible. So in that sense, maybe those supplements were really freaking good because I was not getting nutrients from my food because the parasites were eating it. So I'm just going to say, here's the other side of the spectrum is, that thank God, that I had access to those supplements. And so the supplements for me that I really tend to gravitate towards tend to be herbs, not proteins and not stuff. Anything is put in a capsule and a pill and stuff, although herbs can be too. But the mainstream stuff is I really stay away from. We actually use a supplement that is insane, that it literally resets the leptin and ghrelin away from looking at sugar and looks at fat. And it is purely amino acid chains and plants. And so herbs and plant supplements, I think they've been powerful for thousands of years, but they're not very mainstream because it's pretty accessible to everyone.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
that's interesting. So, yeah, I mean, I think I've seen some positive benefits of like magnesium for sleep for some folks. I've definitely seen some benefits of calcium for clients that have had osteoporosis or osteopenia, or have history of that. And again, I tend to, if I do recommend something, it's something our body already naturally uses or needs or produces. I don't love, like you said, like a manufactured, weird combination of things that our body isn't already going to have in its system or get from its food. And maybe we're just not able to get enough. Like if someone's lactose intolerant and they can't get as much calcium potentially in their diet because they can't eat certain foods that are calcium rich, like that person may need, or like in the winter months, vitamin D. Obviously, most everybody's vitamin D deficient in the winter months when you're not out in the sun as much. Now, with you out in Colorado, you guys get a lot more sunshine, more days of the year, so you maybe not as prevalent, but I've had some clients in Seattle and had some clients in the UK, and it's like they get all that dreary, cloudy months. And so to just need to get a little bit of a kickstart for energy levels, I think there are some case by case situations. I'm not like a universal, everyone should be taking collagen protein in their coffee in the morning or whatever these people are doing now with these protein coffees. I don't know if you've seen that on your Instagram reel, but I just keep getting the protein coffee recipes from all these people. It's like, I don't know.
What's clear to me is that whatever is marketed heavily will sell.
Oh,
and
yeah.
People will buy. That's clear to me because, you can probably go back yourself, and I've watched the last 20 years. It's unbelievable. Like we are an interesting species because, like, for example, HCG injections back 10 years ago, more than that, they found they were causing cancer and they banned them from the FDA, and then just wait about 5 years and everyone forgot and they came out again. And it's just really interesting. Like we're that, like, so interesting. We just forget. And so I think that companies play off of this. And I think what really is the case is that nothing's ever going to beat food. No matter how much it's researched, and, there's always going to be a supplement to sell. And I think, you and I kind of seem to be in the same page on a lot of stuff, but I think it's even interesting that you're saying, hey, don't use a lot of supplements. That's where I came to too, is like, it's it doesn't seem to work as well. Now, again, the plant-based stuff, I really appreciate some of those things. Like for me, the magnesium, I had patients that use calcium magnesium, and they would use it so often that it caused digestive problems because it give you diarrhea, right? So versus an ashwagandha, right? Or an actual plant that lets you relax. So I've really turned a lot more towards plant-based stuff because of the powerfulness, how powerful it is truly, what it can do for you.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's probably more cost effective in some cases, obviously depending on the vendor and those sort of things. But I do think too, and then you become reliant on them. I think once you start taking things, whether it's placebo or whether it's truly helping you, and then, even if your body has healed and you've gotten your nutrition back in place and you've gotten your exercise in a better place and you maybe don't need all this stuff, but then you don't know what's what, you've got so many things going on. I'm taking these supplements and I'm doing this and I'm doing that. And you're changing all these things. And it's like, well, which one is really making the difference? And are you overspending or over emphasizing something that really isn't really helping you that much?
Yeah. Because I guess you can really say there's a time and place for everything. But if someone were to ask me like, hey, what supplements would I use? The first thing I would do is I would say, let's close that book for just a second and look at your diet. That's the first thing I would do, is let me look at your diet. What are you eating? And the first thing I'd start with is, are you eating lean meats?
Mhm.
Or if you're a vegetarian, are you capable of getting enough proteins in your vegetables? Do you know how to do that? And are you getting complex carbohydrates, vegetables, and fruits? That's the first thing I would do. But listen, how much easier is it to just go buy the pills and and not have to do that?
I know. I know.
You know,
It's all we're all looking for the easy way out. And I say it all the time, it's like hard is where the growth happens. If it doesn't stay hard, but it's hard in
yeah,
the beginning because it does require time and it requires attention, it requires detail. With my process, they're tracking their food every day and they're meal prepping and they're weighing and they're measuring and their kitchen is like their laboratory. And at the beginning, it's a lot of time and it's a lot of energy and a lot of effort, but then they never won't know that. You cannot weigh a chicken breast and see what 4, 5, 6 ounces looks like and then not know what that looks like. You will always know. Once you do that for even a week, it's like you're going to build a plate and look at it and know what that portion looks like. Then when you go out to eat somewhere and they've given you twice as much pasta as you made at home, like you just know that and you're more educated. So, I think that doing it the hard way is never going to be less effective, but
mhm,
sometimes doing it the easy way can backfire. So,
yeah. And I just realized I was able to go live. We didn't have to stop, and I
oh,
figured
good,
I
good,
could do it. I just did just now. What you're saying to me reminds me of a statement. I don't know who said this, but we all suffer two types of pain in this life. So it sounds like it's a very depressing statement, but it's actually really awesome. So we all have two types of pain. We either have the pain of discipline or the pain of regret.
good.
The difference is the pain of discipline weighs ounces as compared to the pain of regret weighs tons. And so you can extract this out into your finances, your relationships, or anything. But the pain of discipline to take Sunday, I know Sundays is when I cook my meals for the entire week. That takes some discipline, and it's a little bit painful.
Mm,
But if I don't do that, I don't have food ready, and I end up eating junk. And so the pain of that is going to be the pain of having to go to the doctor and figure out what's wrong with my gut.
mm,
And that weighs tons. Or you could even say the pain of deciding not to eat sugar. Let's be face it, that is painful. Oh my God, to pull sugar out. But it's not as painful as ending up with 50, 60 pounds and a heart attack by the time you're 65.
that's right.
So you decide which pain you want. They're both painful. And I really like pointing to that because there's a delusion. Like sometimes we can be, as coaches, as almost a little bit too positive about like, hey, let's go make this change. But what I do with people is I go, we're going to make a change and it's going to hurt like hell. And that way we get over the fantasy of, ooh, I'm ready to make a change. But when the pain comes, you're like, yep, here it is. It's
Mm.
painful. You decide which one you want.
Well, yeah, and I mean, and I think that people are not inherently good at playing the situation all the way through. I mean, our culture is immediate gratification and drive-throughs and click it and overnight delivery and all the things, like everything we do is like immediate gratification. And so I just think that's become more prevalent as just human nature versus, like you said, okay, yes, this in this moment is not easy or convenient or comfortable, but you're not playing the scenario out to the long term. Okay, but I'm avoiding disease. I'm avoiding discomfort down the road. I'm avoiding illness. I'm avoiding obesity, whatever the case may be. The pain in that moment is worth it. But most people just are not willing to get uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Everything has to be comfortable and warm and fuzzy and convenient. And I think that's what makes what we do a difficult sell because it's uncomfortable.
Yeah, I really love like I specifically only will work with people who've already been through pain. Meaning, I'm not a great fit if someone's just starting to figure out they just starting to look at losing weight. I won't even bring them on. I love the people, which is a majority of people who've done Weight Watchers, paleo, keto, fasting, and the weight keeps coming back on. That's when I know they're ready to listen.
Mm,
Someone who hasn't dealt with pain is someone who's just not a good fit for me
yeah.
because when I talk to them about the principles of you can't starve yourself to healthy, a person who's been through pain goes, "Yep, I figured that out myself." A person who's not eating enough and over exercising goes, "Yep, I realize what you're saying is true. I'm storing fat, right?" I need those people to go create all the pain, and so that way you can actually start listening. I'm the same way. I don't listen until I have pain. So okay.
That's right. No, we are all stubborn in our own ways, but I do think that it's frustrating for me to see people go down those paths and to like watch them go down knowing they're going to be suffering in the end, but yet they still go and invest and do and whatever they, or you see the short-term result and they're so excited and you're like, but let me talk to you in a few months, because that's just not going to be sustainable. And I think it's really hard for me as somebody that wants to give somebody a legitimate, sustainable, long-term approach to what they're doing. Is like, I see all these people selling quick fixes, selling templates, selling cookie cutter approaches, and it's like, don't waste the money on that, because there are better ways to do it, but it's just not as easy or quick,
Yeah, yeah, well said. And I want to give us our time check. We're right there at the time.
Ooh, we're there. All right, let's hop off, Doc. Well,
Thank you.
Wrap up, I mean, we kind of got off tangent, but I think we would agree supplements for us are kind of a secondary, that not a go-to. So Amen. Awesome. All right. I'll see you next week.
Hey, good to talk to you. I'll see you soon.
Right. Bye.